a gentleman named Idries Shah. And he lived from 1924 to 1966. He was an author and a teacher. He wrote over 3 dozen books on topics from psychology and spirituality and travelogues and cultural studies. He was born in India, descendant of a family of Afghan nobles, but he grew up mainly in England, and his father used to travel and take him everywhere with him. So he was in Uruguay with his father. He was all around Europe with his father. And he described that unconventional upbringing, the father and his extended family and friends trying to expose all the children in the family to lots of different impacts, lots of different cultures, and a wide range of cultures, of contexts and experiences. And that was the idea, to produce a well-rounded person, someone who has a lot of information to draw on when they're thinking of different things or involved in different situations. So he published a book called World Tales, and it was subtitled The Extraordinary Coincidence of Stories Told in All Times, in All Places. It's about 65 folk tales contained in the book, and they were mostly drawn from literary sources. Some of those stories are very current, and others are less well known. So each story is preceded by a short introduction by the author, and it gives a brief history of the tale's literary mutations. So the strange similarities between this story found in India and this story found in England, this story found in Greece and this story found in France, and the similarities that those stories exhibit across these great geographical instances. And I need to find how I forward. So this is the cover of the 1979 book. And this book is available when our systems are available for interloan. Again, this book is available for interloan. And it is also available for purchase on their website. And what that means is that the Idries Shah Foundation actually has a whole website where they make available his publications. So he has that book. He has a number of books that are more adult oriented on the natures of spirituality and lots of cultural explorations of that. His children's books are very, he chooses very good illustrators. So he has a lot of very vividly illustrated children's books, and they often display a particular fable or a particular theme that might be across multiple cultures. So these are 2 that we're going to look at today. And these are fables, The Onion, and Speak First and Lose. And I think, have we got the same? Yes, the same illustrator for both of these. So you can kind of see that in the expressions here. These are done probably for an audience of children, although they can be enjoyed by older children. They're probably most intended for younger children, although they are going to discuss a few things that older children will have observed in people around them and the types of behavior. And I'm not sure what happened there. Let's go back and see. I should have gone on to the next slide. So did I get it? Nope. Okay, well, we'll go back to the previous one. I need to get this out of here for a minute, and let's go back to previous, because I've lost some of my controls here. So I'm going to try and get to the next spot I need to be. Let's go up to here and go to here. So here we have, this is the main website for the Idries Shah Foundation. And across the top here, we'll find all the different categories that we're looking for, specifically for our books. And let's see, your screen sharing is paused. Okay, Carol, am I not sharing?
I'm seeing the screen where you showed the 2 books.
Okay, I am on a different one now, so let's see if I can figure out how to get back to where this one is and over to where this one is.
Black screen now.
Yep. Yep, just some technical difficulties here. I find where my things have all disappeared to. Okay, It says my screen sharing is paused, and I'm trying to figure out where my control is to unpause it.
Is it not showing up at the top?
There. Your screen sharing. But boy, it sure moves around a lot. Okay, by the time I switch to something else, it tells me my screen sharing is paused. So it doesn't appear that I can get out of here. I'm going to stop a share here real quick. I'm going to see if I can bring up my other one, which is not working as smoothly as I'd like. Hang on, Alia, we're getting there. Share screen. So now, do I have Idries Shah Foundation up?
Yes.
Okay, so, and this is just on this website, you'll find a number of interesting backgrounds on what their foundation does, but over here under our books is where we're really gonna go. And you can find a lot of different things here, but on the children's books section, you'll find their children's books, the specific ones that they have. And these are actually available to not only read aloud, so you can simply open the book, and this will bring up an image of the book and an opportunity to turn the pages, and you can simply flip through it and read it. It will also bring you, I need to get out of here. It will also bring you to the opportunity to select it on YouTube and listen to someone read it to you. So that's what we're going to do today. And I'm going to bring this up.
Speak
Can everyone
First
hear
and
that?
Lose by Idries Shah. One day, a newly married couple moved into their new home. At first, they were the happiest newlyweds imaginable. But once the presents were opened, they started to quarrel. "Shut the door, there is a draught," said the husband. "I am not a slave," answered the wife. "Shut it yourself." "Tell you what," said the husband, "let's see who can keep silent the longest. The first person to speak closes the door." His wife nodded her agreement, and they sat down, with the draught whistling around them. The night wore on. Neither of them moved. Some thieves, passing by, saw the open door and walked in. They closely examined everything in the house, including the man and his wife, whom they took to be statues. They stripped the house and even took the wife's jewelry. Still, neither the man nor his wife had moved or said a word. Finding the couple's door open, the night watchman came into the room. "Shut your door," said the captain of the watch. But neither the man nor his wife moved. "You must obey the orders of the watch," bellowed the captain of the watch. Unable to elicit any response, the men of the watch dragged the couple to jail. In the morning, they were taken before the judge, charged with having defied the watch. "If you don't speak," the judge told the husband, "it'll be contempt of court." Getting no reply, the judge growled, "That's it. I'll have you whipped." Suddenly, the woman cried out, "Don't hurt my husband." "Ha!" shouted her spouse. "You have lost the bet. Now you have to close the door." And I wish that I could tell you that the man and his wife lived happily ever after.
Oh dear. So let me stop that and close that one. And in Speak First and Lose, it's a fable. And it says, we often urge our children not to be stubborn, not to sulk, not to bear a grudge, and know when to reach a compromise. What happens if we all refuse to be as reasonable and as rational as we ask children to be? So in Speak First and Lose, we see what could happen if adults fail to resolve their differences in an intelligent and thoughtful way. Now, surely grown men and women would never allow themselves to get snarled up by such trivial matters. But did they? They lost so much because they were so stubborn. Let's see the next one that we have. And I'm going to go to it this way. And it is The Onion. The Onion is also available as an open book, so you can read it for free on their website. And it's also a YouTube book. So when we come across something new, something alien to our everyday experience, our first impulse is often to rush to make sense of that unknown object or situation or phenomenon. In our haste to understand fast, we jump to conclusions before we've taken the time to make more than the most superficial or quickest observations. If we give ourselves more time, we would no doubt learn more, experience more deeply, or manage to discuss our findings with those around us. But even if we were to take time, our inbuilt distrust of what we do not understand could cause us to discard or distrust the new or unknown, rather than welcoming the opportunity to add something novel to our lives. So now we'll see what happens with The Onion.
The Onion by Idries Shah. Dedicated to the sense of imagination which lives within us all. There was once a time and a town in which onions were rare, almost unknown. Then one day, a traveler dropped a large onion
do you see
in
where
the
he dropped
town's
it?
main square. The citizens, or many of them, were very interested in this curious new object. They could see that it was some kind of vegetable, but they wanted to know more. By chance, the first person to venture near the onion coughed as he approached. He immediately ran away to teach that onions cause coughs. The second person to inch near the onion found that it had a strong smell. "If the outside is as strong as this, then the inside must be almost impossible to bear," he wept. So he left the onion alone. The third man to come close was braver, making a
Used big
cut
cleaver.
in the onion. A layer of it came off in his hand. "What a miraculous object!" he cried to the crowd. "This object has magical qualities. You cut it, and it discards the whole of its outside, leaving an inside which is just the same." The next person who was brave enough to handle the onion stripped off its outer layer and tried cooking some of it. She realized that cooked onion was delicious when treated correctly. In fact, cooked onion was so delicious that she made quite a name for herself, teaching others to recreate the dish. As well as being very tasty, however many layers you tear away, this amazing vegetable always presents you with yet another layer, the cooks and the townsfolk exclaimed. "It seems to be getting smaller," someone remarked. "Nonsense," cried the cooks and the townsfolk. "That's just an optical illusion." You see, they all wanted to believe that the onion was everlasting. And when the last layer had been ripped from the onion, everyone exclaimed, It is undoubtedly a magical but yet a treacherous thing. And wiping their hands free from onion juice, they all agreed, as indeed was the most sensible thing to do, that people were better off, on balance, in a town without any onions at all.
So the question there is, what do we think? Was it really better to be without the onions? Onions add a lot of things, and a lot of people thought them very different. Now I'm going to look down here and find the other windows I had open, which are sometimes hiding beneath other things. Oops. Yes, so many of these things. Let me move my slideshow if I can. Sometimes they won't let me grab these. And I need to pull this back up and tell you a little bit more get my screen a little bit bigger there. And then in the World Tales book will be our final story for today. And it's found under their additional works. And you can see it published here, and you can read it for free as well. And it will load up, and it will load without its illustrations, which is one of the best ways actually to read the book, is to see it with its illustrations. But here's where he explains a little bit about the different, in the introduction, he explains a little bit about the different folklore behind these. And then here is the table of contents. And page 16 is Dick Whittington and his cat. See if we can get that to load up for us really quickly here. And this is a tale that's told in England. And it's this sort of thrilling and a romantic story of poor Dick Whittington and his rise to fame and fortune, thanks to the exploits of a cat, which was his only possession. And there are some facts. It's a rags to riches epic. There are some facts that Richard Whittington did in fact exist. He was indeed 3 times Lord Mayor of London, and he did marry Alice Fitzwarren. But they're the only true facts of the story, as far as we can tell. He was not of humble birth. He didn't necessarily own a cat. And these stories sort of start back in Europe, and it can be attributed to a merchant of Genoa, citizens of Venice, Norway, Denmark, Russia, and France. So it's kind of been all over the place. And what we'll do today, rather than have me read this, since it does not include any of the illustrations, but this is a much more, Idries Shah and World Tales puts a much longer version of this here. So that is very much worth seeing. There is, if I can get here, also the story is available for us on YouTube. And this will give us some illustrations as well, and someone much cleverer than I doing the reading.
Dick Whittington and his cat. Dick Whittington woke one morning with a hankering for adventure. He bounded out of the house and onto the village green. "Hey!" an old farmer called to the boy. "You ought to take yourself off to London. It's too quiet round here for the likes of you. They do say that the streets there be paved with gold." Dick was amazed. "Gold? Then just one cobblestone would make me rich." "But then again, I never believe what town folks say," added the farmer, laughing. But he was too late to stop Dick. The young man had two words ringing in his ears: London and gold. "And now to the city," he cried, "to make my fortune." The first signpost outside the village said London. Good, thought Dick. It must be just over the hill. But London was not just over the hill, nor over the next, nor the next. Exhausted, Dick lay down to sleep in the shelter of an old oak tree. In the middle of the night, he was awakened by a tickling on his cheek. Sitting up, he saw a marmalade cat smiling at him. "Excuse me, sir," said the cat, "but have you got a saucer of milk to spare?" "I'm sorry," said Dick. "All the food and drink I set off with has gone, and I've no money to buy more." "Never mind," said the cat. "If we curl up together, at least we'll be warm." And that is how Dick made friends with his cat, who very soon told him that his name was Tom. In the morning, they travelled on together towards London. On and on they walked until at last Dick said, "I'm going back, Tom. I've had enough. There can't be anything in London that's worth all this walking." And he turned his back on London and began trudging home. At that very moment, the sound of bells began to ring across the fields. They were the church bells of the city of London, and they seemed to be singing, "Turn again, Whittington, Lord Mayor of London." Over and over again they chimed until the words jangled in Dick's head. "You can't give up now," cried Tom. "Onwards to London." And there it lay, round the next corner, the gleaming, smoking, ramshackle chaos of London. The roads were suddenly busy. Everybody seemed to be shouting and hurrying, pushing and quarrelling. But the streets were not paved with gold. They were running with mud. Dick and Tom ducked out of the way of the thronging crowds and ran through an arch and into a courtyard. Dick knocked on the basement door of a grand-looking house. "Have you got a job for a hard-working country boy?" he shouted. A fearsome face as white as dough and crowned with fiery red hair appeared round the door. "Come in here, boy, and scrape the pots. I'm cook in this house. If you work hard, I might let you eat the scrapings." And that was how Dick came to work in the house of Captain Fitzwarren. He worked so hard, scraping and polishing, that by evening he wanted only to sleep. But the mice that infested his attic bedroom kept him awake, until one night he said to Tom, "Go get 'em, boy," and the mice ran for their lives. Dick's cat was a great comfort to him. So too was Captain Fitzwarren's young daughter, Alice. She would often come down to the kitchen to sit and talk with Dick, and she loved to stroke Tom as he lay by the fire. "If I were Lord Mayor of London," Dick used to say laughingly, "I'd marry you, Alice Fitzwarren." And Alice would smile and say, "If you did become Lord Mayor of London, of course I'd marry you." And the cat would purr and say, "Who knows? Who knows?" One day, Captain Fitzwarren announced that he was setting sail on a voyage. He gathered together his family and servants and said goodbye to them all. When he noticed Dick standing beside the cook, his cat in his arms, he said, "Now that's just what I need. Here's a silver shilling, boy, for your cat. He's a ship's cat now." Dick tried to protest, but the cook smacked him sharply. "Do as you're told and don't argue with the master." Dick returned sadly to his chilly attic, but it was so lonely without Tom that he decided to go and fetch him back. Just before dawn, he crept up the gangplank of the ship, little knowing that it was just about to sail. And that is how Dick came to be cabin boy aboard Captain Fitzwarren's ship, and to sail to the mysterious lands of the East. After weeks in storm-tossed waters, the ship ran aground on a strange, uncharted shore. Strange, warlike soldiers escorted the ship's company to the Sultan Suleiman's palace, cargo, cat, and all. "Mighty Suleiman," said Fitzwarren, spreading the entire ship's cargo before him, "I bring a few humble possessions in the hope of pleasing your eminence." Said the Sultan. "I have every possession a man could desire. What need have I of these trinkets?" As the Sultan spoke, Dick could not help but notice that the whole palace was overrun with mice and rats. Tom wriggled restlessly in Dick's arms. "I can't bear it another minute." Leaping out of Dick's arms, he pounced towards the Sultan's daughter, the Sultana, dived under her throne, and came out dragging a huge rat in his jaws. "Oh, sun and moon!" shrieked the Sultana. "What a wonderful beast is this!" Tom ran round the palace, scattering mice and rats and swallowing a dozen or more. "Oh, marvelous beast!" cried the Sultan. "During my reign and the reign of my father, this country has been plagued with rats. But this creature is a veritable slayer of rats. Name your price, Captain. For this creature I will pay a sack of diamonds." Dick caught Tom up in his arms. "Oh, but he's my friend, sir. I couldn't leave him behind in a foreign land." The cat whispered in Dick's ear. Dick set him down on the floor, and off he ran towards the ship. Impatiently, the Sultan waited. Anxiously, Dick and the captain watched the door for the cat's return. At last, a small, whiskered face peeped round the door, and Tom returned, leading a family of kittens. At once they began pouncing on mice. "You have always had cats in your country," said Tom, "but they were frightened by your warlike ways. These 6 would be most proud and honored to serve you and your son, and your son's sons, as long as you put away your swords. And now, if it please your Excellency, I'd like to go home with my friend Dick." The Sultan clapped his hands with delight. "Oh, earth and sky, but this is wonderful. I have 6 rat slayers instead of 1. Great must be the reward for those who brought me these cat beasts. To the boy Dick I offer my daughter, yes, my own daughter, for a wife. You aren't married, are you, boy?" Dick bowed very low. "No, your gloriousness, but I have sworn to marry none other than the beautiful Alice Fitzwarren, daughter of this worthy sea captain." The Sultan was disappointed, and the Sultana was very disappointed. But they comforted themselves by giving Dick 3 sacks of diamonds and a turban. "Oh, most generous Suleiman," said Dick, "our boat is grounded on your beautiful shores, and without help we can never return home." "Not another word," cried the Sultan. "Here are 2 flying carpets woven by my own magician, one for the ship's crew and another for my humble gift of treasure." And that is how Dick Whittington came home to London. As the 2 carpets swooped over the roof of the house, Alice looked out of her window and waved. "Dick," cried the captain, climbing off the carpet, "now that you've made your fortune, you're as good a husband as I could wish for my Alice. And what's more, I do believe she's in love with you. Why not run and ask her?" "Do you remember my promise?" said Alice. "I vowed to marry you if ever you became Lord Mayor of London." Such was his love for Alice that Dick immediately set to work. Using the treasure given him by the Sultan, he soon became a rich and successful merchant. He was hard-working, popular, and fair. And before 2 years had passed, he was elected Lord Mayor of London. On the day of the wedding, the streets were filled with people, all agog to see the new Lord Mayor and his beautiful bride. Tom sat beside Dick and Alice in their golden coach, wearing a new ribbon with a bright silver bell. But no one could hear it ringing above the huge, pealing chimes of the bells of the City of London as they rang out, "Hail Richard Whittington, Lord Mayor of London."
Okay, so we have come to the end of our myths and legends story time for today. Again, we want to remind you that we're coming up close to the start of our summer reading program. Will kick off on June 1st, and it's going to be a little different this year because we're all living under a little different conditions right now, but you'll be able to register online and you'll be able to fill out your reading logs online. And you can also, once a library is open and we can access our services for you, you'll be able to get paper logs if you prefer that, and you can also print out the logs on your home computer. And there are links on our webpage for that will show you where you can find those services. It's I'm trying to find my mouse again here. And what have I got here? I have too many places here. So the links are on our summer reading program page and they are on our website. And I'm going to try and share my screen and show you where that is. And here is our Grand Ledge Area District Library website. And our summer reading program link is here. When you click on that, and you can see it kind of slowly loading up here, you're going to see some of the information on our summer reading program. It's ready to start, how you can sign up. As of June 1st, all of these links will be active. There'll be further details on what we can expect, but we have lots of opportunities for you to read, some fun entertainers coming to us virtually this summer, and also lots of ways to access reading materials. You will be able to use online reading, of course, and read any books that you have around the house, any books that your teachers might have assigned this summer, any books that mom and dad and grandma and grandpa particularly want to read to you. Those all count. All the reading you do this summer counts from whatever source you can do it. So we look forward to seeing you as we get starting with our summer reading program. The story time resources I think are here under Curious Gladdle under DYI Stories, and it's a service to allow you to create some opportunities for story time and extended learning there. There'll be additional links for the stories that we looked at today and some of the other fables that are coming up so that you can access those and have that story time at home. So we're glad that you were with us today. We hope to see you again next week. We'll be right back here at that time. So thank you and have a good week.